I've been playing Miracle Warriors Seal of the Dark Lord because you have no time to game. The Sega Master System was the first console I owned, and the version I got had frigging Sonic built in. What a win. Making the Blue Hedgehog one of my first gaming experiences ever. Well, at least as far as I can remember. Now, going back in the day around that sort of time, I really didn't know what the genre RPGs was. And it wasn't until many years later that I actually played one, which was Shining in the Darkness for the Mega Drive. And as, you know, being that young, I really didn't have the required literacy or maths, or, you know, to play these sort of games. And now, well, I'm much older and probably not any wiser. I felt it's time to go back to my origins and have a look at what could have happened if I discovered RPGs earlier. And first up on the chopping board is Miracle Warriors. As out of the Master System RPGs, I believe it was the first one released for the console, as far as I can tell anyway. The game was originally released back in 1986 for the PC-88, being ported to the Sega Master System in 89 and translated for the West a little bit after, with a collaboration between Sega and Kogada Studios, and it took me roughly around 10 hours to actually complete the game. So that's all you know, the basic stats behind it. Being a game of the ye old times, the plot is pretty simple. In the past, a legendary hero, Iason, not Jason, once unleashed a Dark Lord, and uniting with the White Monks managed to repel this evil. But he prophesied that the evil would come back, as they do. But 4 heroes would arise to defeat this evil, and well, we just happen to be one of those 4 heroes. And with the 4 heroes comes 4-letter character name, that's all you get. So, looking at the game. First of all, what in the 7 layers of whatever RPG hell was the start of this game? I mean, I must have died 10, 15 times before I could even get going. And thou art surrounded can go die in a poison chemical fire. God damn, anyone that complains that games are difficult have never experienced the 8-bit generation. But yeah, anyway. This game is a turn-based RPG that involves all the usual tropes. Going from town to town, collecting doohickeys to unlock thingies, and all the while taking part in turn-based battles. The battles in this case are not, say, your Final Fantasy, where your whole party goes in. No, you select one of your 4 companions, and they will attack, and then the enemy responds. So yeah, only one of your peeps actually gets attack a turn. But as usual, there's a bit more to do in battle than just attack, and that is like magic and stuff. Magic isn't actually learned spells, it's items you collect or buy. There are 3 different attack items, 1 item that blocks enemy magic and can fail, and a recovery magic. This makes up your entire stock of magic, and note that all of these come in limited amounts and that you can carry at any one time. The use of these though is interesting, as it does not allow your enemy to respond to you. So like I said, you have one person attacks, the enemy responds, then you can choose another one of your or choose one of your 4 members again to attack. It can be the same one or it can be not. But magic, the enemy doesn't respond. So you can spam your magic items until you run out and massively hurt the enemy. Or you can keep on using your stones of protection, which are the ones that block enemies' magic, until it works, because sometimes it fails, which is really annoying. And there's the added bonus as well, so when one of your guys attacks, only they gain experience. So grinding your team up is you have to grind them 1 character at a time. But if you use magic items, the entire party gets XP. So there's another bonus to that as well. Now going back to the party itself, like the 4 characters that we have, they're all identical as far as I could tell. Like one isn't like higher defense and 1 higher attack and 1 higher speed or anything like that. They all felt about the same, apart from Medi. She seems to be the most useful of the team member because she's the only one that gets the crit mechanic, a crushing blow. So she just does more damage overall, making her the most useful member. That's because it's the only differentiating feature of them, and it does more damage. Woohoo! There's also one other useful option in battle, and this is retreat. But it comes with the fatal flaw of thou art surrounded, which I mentioned above. A mechanic in which not only if you fail to flee, but the entire party takes a hit when you fail to flee. And once you fail to flee, you cannot flee again. You can try, but you will always fail and still take damage. So having that thou art surrounded is literally a win or die. And that is why took me so long to get started and died so many times because I kept getting thou art surrounded and then dying before I was strong enough to actually, get to a town and survive. This is one of the most terrifying and annoying mechanics I've ever experienced. Every time it appeared, it made my blood run cold, followed by a massive spike in blood pressure and rage. Outside of battle, there isn't much to talk about. It's your usual affair of getting equipment, of which there isn't much, healing your dudes at the specific shop, or rezzing them at the one place that does that. And then it's just moving around either the dungeons or the world map. But granted, the visual setup is intriguing, because you have 3 sections to it. So yeah, it's quite interesting visually looking at it. But I feel that I must talk about the gameplay loop. So you've just defeated a boss and moved to the next area. This activates loop mode. First, you'll grind for any levels you need in the new area, especially if the enemies are proving difficult. Then you'll go to this one forest area where there is one enemy that drops sacred nuts, of which you'll get 11 of them. The enemy only drops 3 at a time. This is one of your magic attack items. Next, you'll be getting 40,000 gold to get yourself some Staffs of Earthquake, another one of your magic attack items. And because you're nearby, you'll then go and grab yourself some of the Stones of Protection, your anti-magic item. This uses fangs, a separate currency from gold. Gold you get from enemies, and fangs you both get from enemies, but they are used separately. You can sell fangs for gold, but you only as the entire amount you have. You can't sell 50 of them and keep the rest, which is a bit weird. So yeah, now we've got our 2 magic items and our protection. There might be a reason to stop and get 60,000 gold for a weapon upgrade if you've got a new character. This takes a bit of time. Then, if you're in the later areas of the game, you'll then save up even more fangs to grab the final attack item. Also, you'll be going out and killing sea dragons, which is not an easy enemy. They are as tough as some of the bosses in the game. These will give you the recovery item. So this is also, you can spam magic attacks at the start of the battle to kill the next boss and stop it using magic. And you want to do this before every boss battle, otherwise, unless you've grinded the characters to their max, you're not going to win. Also, speaking about grinding, at the end, before fighting the final boss, you're probably going to have to grind with an extra long grinding session to make sure you're strong enough to beat the boss. So yeah, this loop goes on, and it keeps adding an extra step into it as you get further. So you start with just the nuts, then you add in the earthquake and the stones of protection, then you add in the final attack item and the recovery potions, which makes it longer each time. It's a loop you'll go through many times. So yeah, what's actually good about the game, I mean, this is an ancient beast, and well, honestly, even though it's an ancient beast, I actually quite like the visual effects they went for. I can't think of anything like it. Wondering what a world where Miracle Warriors was like the de facto design would look like is kind of interesting, to be honest. Where you had the party view, the map, the stats, all in one go. And yeah, visually it's very different to any of the other games out there I can think of. Also, it doesn't really overstay its welcome, considering the lack of story. So it doesn't really drag on, because it's just literally dungeon diving, really, and wraps up in around 10ish hours. And honestly, if it had gone on much longer than that, I'd probably throw my controller through a window. And what's bad about it, though? Well, it's an 80s JRPG. And that in of itself is a big no-no for many. But honestly, this is one of the good ones. Except for the thou art surrounded. This single feature drove me insane. So add on this the gameplay loop, which it's standard in a sense, but a little frustrating because of the items. Why can't I just buy all the items in the shop? And why do I have to go to specific shops to get the items? Why couldn't they just be in every town? It was frustrating, especially getting the sacred nuts, which relies on trying to find a rare enemy in a location and just waiting for it. Waiting for this bloody, annoying, weird elephant. Oh, and something I've got to mention, some enemies, the most annoying enemies, are the sleep-inducing bar stewards. As sleep has the chance to hit the entire party, who then can't move until they wake up. Standard sleep effect. Apart from, it also does damage to everyone that falls asleep. When on earth have you ever heard of a game where sleep damages someone? But yeah. But anyway, my overall thoughts are actually quite positive for the game. Obviously, it's a game of its time, warts and all. but I personally feel it's a solid attempt. As stated, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It has a couple of interesting puzzles. Combat is simple but addictive. So yeah, it wasn't bad, but it is old, and I appreciate that isn't for everyone. Which leads me to my rating of for niche fans only.